Welcome back after a longer summer break here at Intelligent Machine Monitoring. We have received a lot of emails regarding our video on instrumentation on reciprocating compressors, and that is why my colleague Jan today will talk about a little bit more into detail about displacement sensor and wear monitoring on reciprocating compressors. So Jan, what will be the takeaways today?
Yeah, thanks Jos for the nice introduction. So today we will talk about mainly how this proximity probe, the displacement probe, is working. And the second part of this presentation will be why we need that probe for monitoring of these types of compressors.
Okay, so you have already prepared a little drawing.
Yes, correct. So what we see here at all is on the left-hand side we will see a little drawing of this compressor, including the sensor which we have here on that side, and on the right-hand side of that chart we will see one revolution of the measurement of this probe. We will start today with the explanation how this probe is working. So this is a displacement probe, and this probe has the main important part here on the top. This black part is building up a magnetic field, and with this magnetic field we are able to measure the distance from the piston rod to the probe. So that is what you can see here already. So we have here the probe, and in red shown we have this magnetic field which is built up by this little black part, and in case the piston moves down or moves up, this magnetic field will change, and that will change as well the magnetic field and the output of that value. So the result of that measurement is a voltage, and the condition monitoring system will change that voltage into a unit like microns or millimeters. So in principle easy, magnetic field, movement up or down will change that magnetic field, and the result is a change in the microns we see in the monitoring system. For this probe it's important that we have here a connected cable to that probe. So this cable length is fixed. We have a 10 meters cable length, for example, and it's not possible to shorten that cable to 5 meters, for example, because then the resistance of that cable will change and the output will change as well, so the measurement is not accurate enough. The second main important thing is that we have a fixed distance here at the beginning, because there are different probes. We have, for example, a 2 millimeter probe, a 4 millimeter probe, and that means 2 millimeter probe has a measuring range of 2 millimeters only. A 4 millimeter probe, 4 millimeters, and so on. So in case we are using here a 2 millimeter probe, the maximum visible distance for that probe is 2 millimeter. So the adjustment should be done at 1 millimeter distance from probe to the piston rod, because we want to monitor the movement down and up. If we are too far away, the probe is not able to handle that measurement, and if we are too close to that probe, then the piston rod here will damage the probe. So we try always to be in the middle of the measuring range. So in case of a 2 millimeter probe, 1 millimeter distance should be our starting point. Piston can move up and down, and the probe is able to see that movement of the complete piston. As a result of that, we can see here on the right-hand side the revolution from the top dead center to the bottom dead center to the top dead center again. So that means our piston is moving from top to the bottom and forward again. And with our proximity probe, we see how that movement goes up and down. Here is an example, so we see a little movement up and down, what is quite normal. But this distance, this measuring over one revolution, this dynamic value should not be too high, because then we might have an issue. So which analyzers we are using for that measurement? The first thing is the average value. Average value is quite easy. We have one revolutions with many values here, and we build up easily an average. We use that for the basic calculation of the rider ring wear. The second analyze is the peak-to-peak value. Peak-to-peak is as well quite easy. We check over one revolution, where's our lowest value and where's our highest value, and that is building up our peak-to-peak value. Peak-to-peak is very important in case, for example, we have some parts inside our compression chamber here on the top. Because if we have parts inside that compression chamber, the piston will move over these parts and our peak-to-peak value will increase, what is for sure critical for the compressor. Additionally, for the peak-to-peak value, we are able to do a segmentation here in different segments to monitor smaller parts over one revolution. So that can be done with different numbers. A quite normal number is 8 segments peak-to-peak. Therefore, we check first segment, second, third, fourth until eighth. And in each segment we check where's our lowest value, where's our highest value, and that is a peak-to-peak value for each segment. Result is the same. In case we have something inside the compression chamber, inside we have a loose connection, that peak-to-peak value per segment will increase and inform us early about that issue, or can trip as well the compressor. Last but not least, we have the rider wing wear calculation included in that measurement. Here in the top of the piston we see our rider rings, and over the time these rider rings will wear out. That means the piston drops down, drops down, drops down. And we know the distance here, because that is our measurement. And we know all the distances from here. And with the intercept theorem, we are able to calculate, okay, with a change distance here of 50 microns, we have a change distance here on the rider bands of, for example, 100 microns. And this rider wing wear calculation is very important for early failure detection. In case the piston drops down too much and we have here no rider wings left, then the piston will touch the liner. That is for sure critical for the compressor. So we put warning thresholds on the rider wing wear calculation to inform the customer as early as possible. For example, if we have a maximum allowed wear of 1000 micron, then we will adjust warning thresholds at 600 and 700 microns to inform the customer 400 and 300 microns earlier before the piston touches the liner. So that is the rider wing wear calculation, which is very nice for the early failure detection. So finally the conclusion is, the measurement is quite easy. Magnetic field will measure the distance here. You can see it in the monitoring system as a distance voltage signal, and with that one you have a protection value based for the peak-to-peak value, and mainly early failure detection with the rider wing wear calculation here on the top.
You just mentioned early failure detection and as well having foreign objects in the compression chamber. What about liquid objects? I mean, liquid slug, liquid carryover is always something operators really are afraid of.
Right.
Are you able to detect these failure patterns with this measurement as well?
Yeah. So finally, it's independent if we have liquids here inside the compression chamber, or if there are metal parts or some product or whatever, because the piston will move over that parts, and that will change the distance here from the probe to the piston rod. That is case number one. Case number two is that liquids are here exactly in the top, and then the piston will change the direction, and we are able to measure that as well with the change distance. So finally it will help us to detect parts inside the compression chamber as well liquids which will cause a high force on the piston rod.
Okay, thank you very much for this, Jan.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And join us for our next episode here at Intelligent Machine Monitoring.